Hello, hello, we are live. Welcome to Cooking with Chef Frank. My name is Frank Kramer. I'm your host and I'm the founder of Eat Like a Vegan Chef. Welcome to today's episode. I'm going to cook or I'm going to bake the vegan vanilla pound cake. So, this is very dear to my heart, so to speak, because it's my wife's favorite cake and today is her birthday. So I'm going to bake her this cake and surprise her. And so that's what I'm going to do today. Um, don't tell anyone, it's a surprise, okay? So, yeah, basically, um, in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how I'm going to bake the vegan cake. Very often I get the question, okay, how do you bake if you don't have eggs? How do you bake if you don't have oil? Okay, so that's basically very simple to solve. I use flax meal as the egg, so to speak, and I use applesauce instead of oil. Um, for some reason, applesauce is the perfect ingredient to omit oil, and the flax meal is the perfect ingredient to omit eggs. So obviously I add baking powder to it, and I also have a little bit of a trick, so to speak. Very often in cakes we use whipped egg whites. In this case, I'm actually using whipped aquafaba. So that is actually making the cake really, really soft and tender, and it makes it spongy, so to speak. And that's what I'm using in my cake today. Okay, so obviously the aquafaba is optional. You don't have to use this, but I realized it tastes. It's not really the taste, but it's the structure of the cake what makes it so beautiful. Um, okay, so before I continue, if you could say hello so I know you're there. It's always nice to talk to an audience. I know we have a bunch of um, viewers here. Would be nice if you say hello. We have Sherry, Kelly, Weber. Weber, it's your birthday today. Happy birthday, yes. Um, Herman, welcome. Barbara, Rebecca, welcome everyone. Okay, excellent. For those of you who just joined, I'm going to bake the vegan vanilla pound cake. And by the way, the pound cake is really coming from the traditional pound cake, meaning it was a pound of most ingredients: a pound of flour, a pound of butter, a pound of sugar. It was a very, very rich, rich, rich cake. Um, it was one of the older recipes. Nowadays, obviously, we use a lot less sugar because if 1 pound of sugar is way too much. But in this case, um, obviously, this recipe has been completely transformed, so to speak, and there are hundreds or thousands of different kind of pound cake recipes, even vegan recipes out there. Everyone has their own trick up their sleeves. So from that point of view, I try to do this one. I find it's a beautiful way to recreate this pound cake experience. And yeah, so I would say let's get started. Um, great, great. Yes, Sherry, that's a very good um, question. If I use aquafaba, it must be salt free. Correct. Very, very good. If you buy garbanzo beans, they gotta be salt free. Otherwise, you have to omit the salt in the cake. You always add a little bit of salt, but in this case, you really had to omit all the salt so it doesn't get too salty. Good question. Thanks, Sherry. Um, okay, good. Let me change my camera and then we'll get started. Oops, that was the wrong one. Huh, they changed something in the settings here. Okay, okay, so we have this, beautiful. Okay, good. So we in the cake we always baking. We always start with the dry ingredient first. I have 1 cup of whole wheat flour and 1 cup of oat flour. You can also use spelt flour. Um, if you want to keep it gluten free, absolutely you can use spelt flour or mix organic oat flour and spelt flour. You can do that too. Okay, this then 2 teaspoons of baking powder, just a pinch of salt, and we're gonna mix it up a little bit. That's it. Now to the wet ingredients. I have 3 tablespoons of flax meal, which I have mixed with 5 tablespoons of water. And this is instead of our eggs. And if you really look closely, it has a very gooey texture, just like eggs, and it becomes really gooey later. That we're gonna mix with 1 teaspoon of vanilla, maybe a little bit more vanilla. I love vanilla. Apple sauce, 1 cup of apple sauce. That is instead of our oil. Okay. And then this is optional. We're going to add 2 to 3 tablespoons of apple syrup. I'm sorry, maple syrup. That is of course optional. If you don't want to add sugar, that's perfectly fine. We're going to add a little bit to it so we can satisfy our sweet tooth. Okay, last thing, one juice from 1 lemon. Okay, and now we're going to mix it all together with 1.5 cup of, I use almond vanilla milk, and that is unsweetened, of course. We're going to mix the wet ingredients into the dry ingredients, and you can certainly use a mixer if you like. I don't really need the mixer now because there's no gluten to worked in, so we don't have an issue with that. Depending on what kind of flour you're using, you may use less or more almond milk. And you don't want the dough to be too liquid, so you want to keep it kind of thick. Remember, we are still adding our aquafaba in here, so it's okay if the dough is a little bit on the thick side. because every flower absorbs more or less liquid. A little bit more. So that was 1 cup and 2 tablespoons of almond milk. Okay, that's it. Now I have my Aquafaba, which I had started already. Maybe you can see this here. Oops. Okay. I had started to whip it already, so it doesn't take that long. See, it's halfway done. I have to whip it a little bit more. Okay. Should be ideally a little bit more than that, but because of the time constraint, I'm going to use it. It literally becomes it's whipped to the peak. Like this is a little bit too liquid, so it should be whipped a little bit more than that, but it's okay. I'm using it anyway. And I'm using half a cup of Aquafaba, which I have whipped. I actually whipped more than half a cup because I used it for a separate cake. And we're going to carefully fold it in. Better if we use a spatula, because we want to keep the bubbles in here. Okay, and that's basically it for a pound cake. I have a 1 pound loaf form, which I have greased and floured previously. Now I'm going to add this right in here. Okay. As much as possible. Scrape everything out. Okay. Okay, now that's basically it. Our cake is going in the 350-degree oven for about 40 minutes. Okay, let me switch my camera here. Okay, good. So let's see. Um, does anyone have any questions about this cake? Okay. Sherry's asking, what did I use to grease the pan? Well, I used olive oil, spray oil. Yes, I do. Once in a while, I use a little bit of oil. It's, sometimes it's not, you cannot avoid to use a little bit of oil. And it's, we don't want to take it to the next level where we say, okay, we don't use no oil whatsoever. But for certain applications, you just have to. Um, you can also use um, a, how you call them, silicone baking foam. Those use those work really really well, and very often you don't have to grease them. Rebecca is asking, where can I find the recipes? I will upload it into the library right after this year, and I'm also going to create a blog post by this afternoon on my blog. Um, Sherry, I use olive oil, um, spray olive oil. You can get those spray bottles. What you use for your flowers for water, you can use the same thing for oil, and just spray a little bit in your pan. Okay, let's see. Anyone else? Any questions? Okay, I actually have another cake in the oven, the same thing, and I made it earlier. And I'm going to take it out in just a minute. It should be almost done, so you have an idea how it looks. Good. So I just wanted to talk about the recipe a little bit. I know very often I get the question asked, do I use baking powder or do I use baking soda? What do I use? Okay, so there are actually two types of baking powders out there which you can use. There's the single acting and the double acting. Um, and very often when we go in a supermarket, at least me, long time ago, I said, let me grab one and that's it. And I never really understood what is the difference between single and double acting baking powder. And the difference is the single acting baking powder works only with dry ingredients. The double acting works with dry and wet ingredients. So you need to have the double acting in order for the baking powder to do its job. So very important when you go out and um, buy a baking powder, look for the double acting. Also, if the expiration date is almost towards the end, it's not going to work. So you have to use a lot more than you usually do. Sometimes you find yourself you add exactly as the recipe calls for, and the cake doesn't rise. So that's because your cake is, sorry, the baking powder is expired or almost expired, or you have the single acting. So there's another one, the baking soda. Baking soda you use instead of baking powder. You can use it in combination. The reason why you see it on some blogs that they use both, that's because they're using the single acting baking powder, but they also use baking soda because of the acidity in there. Acidity, um, baking soda requires acidity to be activated. If you don't have acidity in your cake, your baking soda will not do its job. Okay, so that's the difference. That's why a lot of people use baking soda as an addition to baking powder or only. Okay, so that's basically the key to baking powder and baking soda. Um, you can for the applesauce, for instance, you can also use bananas. You can use mashed bananas. It does the same job, but bananas have a little bit of their own flavor. So if you have a, like a pound cake now, then this pound cake takes on a little bit more of a banana flavor. And that's really not what you want. So that's why I use applesauce. But try it with bananas and maybe make a banana cake out of it. Or, what you could do is the same dough, you could make a banana walnut cake. Oh my goodness, it's brilliant. This is really, really good. Um, Another thing, what I love to use is um, add some almond flavor to your cake, and that you can use for any type of cake, the pound cake, vanilla cake, walnut cake, whatever kind of cake you're using, you can add some some almond flavor. And you do that by just simply grinding like 10 or 12 almonds in your food processor until really, really fine, like a flour, and you add it to your flour, and it gives it an incredible, incredible flavor to your cake. Um, Um, Ginger's asking, did you say you use two types of flours? Yes, I did. I used 1 cup of whole wheat flour and 1 cup of oat flour. So it's up to you. You can use, if you want to use white flour, you can, but white flour is totally processed. It doesn't give you anything. So I rather use two fiber-rich flours. I know I'm missing the gluten in there, which could hurt my cake a little bit because you don't have the structure, but it's a cake, it's not a bread. So I'm not looking at the perfect structure inside my cake. Yes, the original cake is made with white flour, but hey, we're also looking out for having the most healthiest recipe possible, okay, without neglecting the flavor. So that's really important. Um, so you can use oat flour, you can use spelt flour, you can use um, uh, almond flour, of course. You can use, there's quite a few flours you can use instead of what I use today. Um, I like a combination of two flours. It gives it a different texture, and sometimes one flour helps the other improve the texture of the cake. That's why I use two different flours. Um, yeah, so that's basically it. The aquafaba, um, as Shari mentioned earlier, it's good to look at salt-free garbanzo beans, that you use those. Even better if you use organic garbanzo beans, even better. It's safer. And um, yeah, it's really, you have a lot of applications for aquafaba, and it's it takes a little bit getting used to it, but once you see the application you can do with aquafaba is brilliant. It's really nice. The flax meal gives the cake the fibers you need, and also um, yeah, it's healthy for you. Flax meal is extremely healthy, and it to me it's perfect in a cake. Why not? The of course the maple syrup. If you do not want to put sugar in, meaning in form of maple syrup, you can use dried cranberries with no additional sugar in there. You can use dates. You can use date sugar too. You can use dates, just chop them up and put them into the dough. So you don't have to add sugar, but you have some sort of sweetness in there that you can do. Um, yeah, so basically, Ginger is asking, did you grind your own flour? Yes, I did. I used, what is it? Rolled oats. Um, just use rolled oats. Put them in a food processor. Whoop, 2 minutes later, you have flour. So you know it's fresh. You made it yourself. There's no additional ingredients in there. I like to do this. Um, Sherry's asking, I noticed the flax meal seemed like kind of consistency I would get when I made matzo balls. Would that work? Matzo balls, I'm not sure if that would work. I know the kind of flax meal I used was, um, do I have it here? I used the golden flax meal. That's why mine was a little darker than the other one. Usually, um, let's see. I used Trader Joe's organic flaxseed meal. It's a little bit darker, so I assume it's made from. No, actually, yeah, it's made from the regular flax seeds. You can make your own flax meal by using flax seeds. Put them in a. You need to have a coffee grinder. It's sometimes difficult to do it in a food processor. A coffee grinder is better, but then you don't want the coffee flavor in there. So you need to have a separate grinder for those. Um, yes, Aisha, I will post this later. And this is also recorded in YouTube and Facebook. This um, this live stream. And can you freeze Aquafaba for later use? Ha, good question, Len. Good question. I don't know. I don't think so because it's gonna just like egg whites. It's going to go liquid again after a while. You see here. I mean, it's still up. It's still it's still it's still whipped kind of, but you know, I guess you can do the raw. I mean, the application, but it's not whipped. That you probably could freeze, but why? I mean, you could use just open up a can of garbanzo beans and use the garbanzo beans to make hummus or something like this, or pour the garbanzo beans over salad, or saute them later with onion and garlic and spinach, make a wrap out of it. So it's I think you have a lot of applications you can use the garbanzo beans if you use the aquafaba. Um, I've seen aquafaba frozen before, whipping but not whipped. Wow. Okay. Before whipping, yeah, of course. Yeah, no. I could imagine that you can freeze it, the liquids. Yeah, absolutely. Why not? But you really have to put it in an airtight container. Otherwise, it's going to take on the freezer flavor. And especially this liquid is going to absorb any flavor you add to it. So you want to be careful. Okay, let me check. Check if it's ready. Oh, no, it's not ready yet. It's almost, but not yet. Okay, so it's almost ready. Um, Ice cube container that has lid works well. Okay, good. Yeah, you could do that too. Absolutely. Um, okay, let me see if what else we can discuss here. Oh, you know what? You can actually from this recipe, you could actually make muffins. You can make blueberry muffins out of it. You can make regular muffins. Um, the sky's the limit what you can do from this basic recipes. You can add apples to it, make an um, apple cake. Oof, or apple raisin cake. You just have to add literally two two whole apples chopped in in little pieces, preferably green apples, raisins, and just fold them lightly under, and then you have an apple cinnamon cake, um, or apple raisin cinnamon cake. That's beautiful. Add some walnuts to it. Oh my goodness. Um, that could be a cake or even cupcakes, even better. Um, so this is um, your basic recipe, and you can add whatever you like to this recipe. So um, very simple and applicable for a ton of recipes. Okay, good. Um, yeah, that. I'm going to take out the cake in just a second, so I want to show you how it looks like. Before I forget, right now we are doing our case study and our culinary accelerator. So excited about this. Um, a lot of you are in the case study or in the accelerator. Um, I also have decided that I'm going to continue the 16-week case study on an ongoing basis. Basically, anyone who's interested in it can sign up, and we, you would start from the first week, obviously, but you move your way up. But the community stays together, and I think this is really powerful because we will have um, members who maybe in their third or fourth week, and then we have new people come in, and they can actually learn from the ones who are in the fourth, fifth, and sixth week. I find this to be very, very energizing, and it's just really it's great to see how the ones who had success, how they motivate the others. So I'm really, really excited about this case study, and you can still sign up on the website if you wanted to. I know most of you are in already. I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm pretty sure that some of you have seen success. I know that a few of you have done the challenge, and um, I think we had some great success in the challenge. I know Sherry did the challenge, and some others of you. Um, yeah, so now we're continuing in the case study, and I think this can be a life-changing experience. Um, Lynn is saying all those options, um, making me hungry. Yes, I know, I know. Um, yes, Sherry, my weight loss continues. I know Sherry was the winner of the challenge, and she actually won the accelerator. Now you're continuing in the accelerator, and yeah, very excited. Let me see what my cake is saying. So this is how my cake looks like right now. It's not ready yet. I have to put it back in before it's falling again. And I put a smaller cake earlier in. And let me see if I can get it out. So this is the first cake what I did. I could turn it over, but I don't like this side. This side doesn't look really nice, so I'm gonna do it this way, and I'm going to add some vanilla. I call it vanilla custard over it or vanilla coating, and just make it nice. Or maybe I'll use chocolate. We'll see. I don't know yet. Just gonna make it nice with a little cherry on top, and That's going to be her uh, vanilla pound cake. Good, good. Okay, that's basically it for me. I hope you enjoyed this session, and I'll see you throughout the week. Thank you so much. And as usual, be safe and think plant based. For anyone else who joined us on Facebook, I'm sorry, on YouTube, please click the like button and follow our channel. That will help grow our channel, and hopefully you will post a picture once it's dressed. Yes, I will. Yep. Okay, great. Um, Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day. Anyone who's interested to join eatliketheveganchef.com, you can sign up there for any of our programs we have. Have a great day, everyone. Be safe and think plant based.